So without further ado, we're going to have Nick Ramos from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign tell you a little bit more about their organization.
Please bear with me. Usually I'm super boisterous and, Dead Poet Society. I jump on top of desks and I'm yelling. My voice is super hoarse. So, we have to keep moving forward. It's super important. Every presidential election cycle, what do you always hear? You always hear, yeah, right? Doesn't that feel tiring? Doesn't that feel like, man, every 4 years your life is on the line, right? Man, I'm only 32 years old, and my God, I feel like my life is literally being, literally in the balance every 4 years. It's exhausting, but I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I understand what really is at stake, and so it's a treat, it's a privilege, it's an honor to be here today. And before I go into, just this conversation we're gonna have, because I'm sure you guys have plenty of people come in here and just talk at you, and that's not my deal. Like I'm a kind of guy that like the Joker in the Batman movies. I don't have a plan. I co- I come in and it's all feel. I want to feel how you guys are feeling, and I base how I'm going to talk to you based on that. But like, I when I was driving up here, I was thinking a lot about the first time I walked into this church, and it was back when I was working at Boat Riders, and it was so great because back then I had my eyes so wide open. I was trying to figure out my lane at this new job, and this community put its arms around me. I was trying to figure out ways that I could try and reach people and try and help people get IDs and birth certificates and social security cards so they could participate in this thing called democracy and they could go vote. And I wanted to be able to do letter writing parties. And one of my first letter writing parties happened in this very church. And it was with people that I think I see some familiar faces, and we were in that room, in that community room downstairs, drinking coffee and just whipping letters together like there was no tomorrow. And so I have just the most profound gratitude to all of you. Whether you were there or whether you're here today, like it means everything that a young black Puerto Rican guy can just walk into this space and feel like he's at home. And so Mark mentioned that I'm here on behalf of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And I am the fourth executive director of the organization. Just a show of hands, who knows what the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign is? All right, cool. Do anybody know who Matt Rothschild is by any chance? Raise your hand. About Mike McCabe. All right, cool. Well, I'm the fourth in the line, right? First black and Puerto Rican executive director to do it. And I think I'm probably the youngest by like maybe 30 some years. Yeah, pretty silly. They gave the keys to the castle to a guy that wears goofy rings and dangly earrings and, nose piercing. And I did this in the middle of being, the chairman, the executive director of the org. But, during this time, you know, this organization's been around for 29 years, and it was first created to think about the money in politics, think about the overwhelming money in politics. And it's become more and more apparent how influential that money has become. I mean, look in a state like Wisconsin, where we've worked our tails off to try and get fair maps, and my organization through the Fair Maps Coalition work, and I see some Fair Maps Coalition activists in this room right now. We worked for years through grassroots activism, through lobbying efforts, to finally be able to get a map bill across the finish line. And it's why, like, if any of you like look at the picture where the governor is in the chamber, and there's a bunch of us in there, and you'll see my goofy self with a baseball cap on, with a blazer on, and I'm in there yelling like, the roof is on fire. It's because I was thinking about just what it meant to actually have a legislature that would be accountable to us. Think about all the public policy things that we could actually be able to accomplish in a state where lawmakers couldn't just sit there and laugh at you when you wanted to think about things like expanding Medicare, Badger Care. Think about like lead pipe abatement. Think about, okay, so I'm not a born and raised Wisconsinite. I was born and raised in Cleveland. Don't hold it against me, okay? I've had to hear a ton of jokes all my life. Mistake on the lake, nothing good comes out of Cleveland. I like to think I was something semi-decent that came out of it. I'm still a work in progress, but like when I first got here, man, I got super excited about there was going to be a high-speed rail that was going to be across the state and all this stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I was pretty jazzed about that. Yeah, right? We can still check out that high-speed rail, but it exists in Africa, like the train is just sitting there, right? And it's because, unfortunately, during a certain administration, they did not have maps that were indicative of, like, they could just basically just poke you in the eye and say, hey, you know what, do something about it. You couldn't vote us out if you wanted to. Like, and does that really feel like democracy at the end of the day? No. Like, Wisconsin, every year people talk about how we're a purple state. Everybody talks about how we're a pretty 50-50 state. Everybody talks about how it's supposed to be so balanced. And then you look at like presidential elections. Last time we had a presidential election, it got decided by 1%. Yet you look at legislative races here in the state, and sometimes it's so lopsided to be 70% one way, 30% another way. How is that possible? How is that possible that we're a purple state, but yet the maps were then indicative in a way that it would be so uneven? And so, going back to the money and politics part of it, you have so many lawmakers that just become so lost and forget what public servitude at the end of the day really is. And so the beautiful thing with fair maps is that after November, if people take advantage of the fact that we have these newer maps, we're going to see a radical change and be able to actually see some real opportunities to see public policy, things you care about. Like, please, tell me some issues that you really have cared about that you've seen literally not get to happen because lawmakers have had no backbone to go do something about it. Okay. I mean, that was a very specific one, and you rattled that off like that. So, see, but I'm sure there's a real story behind why, and believe me, I'm sure. Like somebody else. Say it again, because you said it so fast. I'm gonna then repeat it literally again. So, young lady in the crowd said reproductive rights and justice for sex assault victims. Anybody else? It's just a couple more people. Issues that you've seen get not addressed in this state that could be addressed with lawmakers here. I saw you first and then you. Do you feel like education has really kind of been getting hamstrung in this state for a long time? Yeah, yeah. Healthcare and DEI, literally. Milwaukee, who getting a raw deal. And I worked in Mayor Barrett's administration for 4 years. Let me tell you something. Shared revenue, a big deal. And people want to brag about, we have a new shared revenue deal. It's hogwash. They took away advisory referendum in that shared revenue deal. We have no advisory referendum here. Like, Milwaukee is a engine of this state, and yet people treat it like it's a drain, and it is not. It is not. Wisconsin would suffer without Milwaukee. I saw you back here. Okay, hey, you were cooking though. You guys are all in alignment, I see. I'll take one more if you got it. Hey, I'm all about it. I'm a lawyer. Like, we, I'm tired of seeing a state in a country where the laws are not being equally applied. And so, honestly, it's well, we're getting pretty close. This year, so someone in the crowd said repealing Act 10, and guess what? Like, in Dane County, a judge started to slowly peel back some of those collective bargaining restrictions. And so I want people to be thinking that during this time frame, I mean, people have said all types of things about how we can't do things in this state. And, as a new executive director, and I took the job about a year and took it in August 21st. So, geez, oh my God. Um, I'm looking at my phone and the calendar right now. Oh my God. It's been a year and what, 2 months ish? Jesus. In that time, I mean, I got to hear a lot of naysayers say a lot of things like, man, you're never going to get to see the maps come back. You're never going to see things like Act 10 be rolled back. You're never going to get to see ballot drop boxes back. You're never going to get to see, like, amendments get defeated in this state. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, I come from a city of believers, all right? I come from a city where, and like the reason why I want to be a Wisconsinite for the rest of my life is the fact that like the people are so resilient. You've been served crap sandwiches all your life, and yet you continue to keep pushing forward. And like seriously, pat yourselves on the backs because it is easy to become jaded. It is easy to be like, you know what, man, I'd rather go to Boca Raton, or I'd rather go somewhere where, well, I mean, it's true. The weather's good, but maybe the other climate is not so good. I won't talk about it because again, C3 nonpartisan player, but I'm going to tell you, like, big thing is that you could have literally packed your bags, went anywhere, and yet you chose to stay here. And like I fell in love with this place not just because of the cheese, not because of the beer, the custard, Harleys, football. I mean, I could go on. But my thing is that like the resiliency of you guys, man, it fires me up. It gets me excited. And then like the reason why I went so hard and like some of the things that with the democracy campaign specifically, we went really hard for the maps. We went really hard after the amendments. Um, in April, we weren't so invested in the fight, and I think about that, and it still gives me nightmares, honestly. And it makes me think about some feelings very early on in my political career where I just feel like I was punched in the nose and I never want to feel that feeling again. And I think about right now. I think about right now with the time we have remaining, and I want people to feel like now. The time is now. You cannot think that there is, you have to, like, who's seen the movie Alice in Wonderland? You remember the little rabbit. He's got the clock, and he's just like, he feels like he's running out of time. He's running around, and he's panicked. He's got bloodshot eyes, and he just, he's like, oh, there's no time, there's no time. I'm telling you right now, if you rest on your laurels, you're going to blink, and it's going to be November 6th. And you're going to say, what more could I have done? And there's plenty we could do right now to be engaged and involved. Like, when I think about just how much we have been able to overcome in this state, and then watch all the people that continue to delegitimize the institutions that we hold sacred, we are on the right side of history. There are folks that want to make us believe that ballot harvesting is a real thing. There are people out there that want you to believe that there are non-citizens that vote in this country, that vote in this state. I'm going to tell you something. I have a non-citizen on my staff right now who is a DACA participant, a deferred action individual who is working their way on a path to citizenship. But I'm going to tell you something. It's not fair to literally try and fearmonger and bully and intimidate people that are doing everything right, that are paying into Social Security, that are paying taxes, that are literally trying to achieve the American dream. And yet, if they were to go into a polling site and try and register, or if they were to go on My Vote Wisconsin right now and try and register, they would get flagged so fast. Whoa. I tell you, My Vote's listening. Governor Tony, if you hear me, I'm not registering anybody, all right? Anyways, my thing is that you just hear all the nastiest tricks in the game just to try and win elections, and that there's so much healing and so much work that has to be done. And I think a lot about, especially like when I was talking about the August Amendment specifically. After April, when we got punched in the nose and people were like, oh, you know what? Don't even bother going after the August ones. You might as well go in your backyard and light a bunch of money on fire. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take that mentality. And I went into a Fair Maps activist meeting. There was over 100 people in there. And I said, you know what? Yeah, we got punched in the face, but I promise you we're not going to get punched in the face again. I promise you that I've been knocked on my butt plenty of times as a kid, but I got back up. And like, I cried that night, man, because I felt like I let so many people down. And I got with my team, I was like, look, we're gonna draw up a plan to start organizing all the C3 organizations around these two amendments, and they were all about trying to strip the governor's power on appropriation of federal dollars. And what were we able to accomplish, guys? I mean, we spent sickening amounts of money, and we did tax and we did public-facing events. We were in Milwaukee we had a GOTV Day of Action that was just, oh my God, it was just immaculate. We were out there doing everything, and we beat that amendment by over 10 points, both of them. And let me give you some facts here, guys. Not only did we make history two ways. One, we broke a 60-year record, a voter turnout record. In August primary, 27%, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, 27% voter turnout in an August primary during a presidential election. And that's very important because the architects of that constitutional amendment were methodical. They were looking at August and they said, you know what? We can slip one past the goalie. We know people do not show up for August primaries. We can get two amendments past these people and we can strip the governor of power that he, governors have had for over 90 years. Might I add that we have the least active legislature in the entire country. So I think it's just kind of comical that those folks want more job responsibilities, yet they've proven they can't do their regular job. Like, can you imagine going into the job and be like, hey, boss, I want more duties, but you don't even show up for your regular job? I would laugh any of my employees out of the office if they ever came into my office with their chest up high like that. The second thing that we did that was miraculous is this. We've had a constitution for 176 years, guys. And in that time, about 75% of the amendments that land on the ballot pass. So the fact that we were able to defeat two amendments all on one ballot, the odds were not in our favor. We had a less than 25% chance of being able to defeat those amendments. Less than that. So my whole story is, why were we able to do any of this? It's because of people power. It's because the grassroots movement is the heartbeat that drives this thing. It's because of engaged people like all of you. It's not because of goofy guys that wear purple shirts like me. I mean, look, I can be the Pied Piper and I can inspire people and we can go do things and we can get resources to go organize it. But if there isn't people out there that believe in the mission and want to go roll up their sleeves and run into battle, it don't mean anything at the end of the day. And so, looking to November, we're on our 5th constitutional amendment of this year. Holy Toledo Batman. You would think the lawmakers here would get tired of this, and they aren't. And, people at this point, you wonder, like, it seems so subtle what they're doing, and it is extremely harmful what they're about to do. Something so subtle as changing the suffrage language, the voting, the criteria of who can vote in this state, from every U.S. citizen who is 18 years and older to only U.S. citizens who are 18 years and older. And you might be thinking, well, Nick, semantics. What is every and only? Why does that even matter at the end of the day? I'm going to tell you, this is a coordinated effort right now across 8 states. 8 states by one organization. And they're not just doing it because they just love changing one word on amendments, on constitutions. They're doing it because they've got a bigger game in mind. And they've been able to get into lawmakers' ears to be able to give them this whole plan, and they're ready to rock on it, I promise you. And they've been so successful on it, and here it is. So I talked about the whole letter writing party that brought me here. Here's the facts, guys. The reason why I was even able to have a job at Vote Riders is this one very critical piece of information. 10% of the voting age population does not have a government-issued ID. So the reason why Vote Riders can even exist is because voter ID laws, I don't care what anybody says. People can say, everybody has an ID. If you have an ID, you should be able to go vote. That is so bogus. And if anybody ever wants to challenge me on that, I would love that, because I was under bridges. I was at rehabilitation clinics. I was out there in rural communities. I was working with the poorest of the poor. I was everywhere trying to help people get IDs and underlying documents. And it's one of the hardest things in the world, because not everybody is at the same finish line. And people want to invoke privileges that not everybody has in this life. And yet, 10% of the voting age population right now in Wisconsin could not vote under our current laws. So if you're going to apply that metric right now, then 460,000 people in this state right now cannot vote. And in a state like Wisconsin, where we have the thinnest of margins, you know how much that would sway any election here? So you're going to tell me that on top of a voter ID law, we're now setting up this legislature, this very non-active legislature, but they love amendments, and they love being able to cut our election administration and make it harder for people to vote. You're going to tell me we're setting it up so that they can not only create another barrier, they are setting it up so that not only we need a voter ID law, but people are going to need a birth certificate to go vote, to prove their U.S. citizenship, because only U.S. citizens 18 years or older can vote. It's not a requirement right now. But when you create an amendment like that, what is next? It's not because they want to just play games, guys. It's because they're going to try and pass the next piece of legislation. And because fair maps exist, it makes it a little bit harder, but there are folks that the gerrymander legislature, they're not all going to disappear. So my thing is there are a lot of people that, the saddest thing that I have to hear in this job is that there are people that have already voted, and they're like, we're just now learning about this amendment. We read it. It's so hard to understand. We now are just learning about it. Wish we would have knew more about it. If we did, we would have voted differently. You know what? That's so heartbreaking. Because, one, the architects of this thing should not be able to write things in hieroglyphics so that we cannot understand what the hell they are writing about. And so that's the first part. The second part is that we are all over the place having to fight all different battles. Oh, you're okay. You know, the Holy Spirit of democracy is working its way through this church today, let me tell you. raise your hand. Anybody have heard about what's going on in Wausau with the ballot drop box out in City Hall? Let me tell you something, man. I was ready to fight a guy I had a helmet on, you know, my organization with some other organizations, I mean, we've been intimately involved with that fight over the drop box, right? You know, because you can't have guys dressed up like Bob the Builder just stealing drop boxes, like, and then stick it in their office and then holding it hostage for a week and thinking they can get away with it. But like, we've been in a multitude of fights, and like, that drop box is back and he's under criminal investigation, and guess what? Oh, totally, totally. So, so in Wausau, Wisconsin, the sitting mayor, who ran on a platform that was very anti-Dropbox, he was given advice from his city attorney and the municipal clerk, and said, hey, like the clerk was planning on putting a Dropbox outside of City Hall, and mayor's like, I don't want a Dropbox out there. And the clerk's like, and again, this is me ad-libbing. This is not like, you know, don't take this verbatim. And mayor's like, you know what, I don't really like drop boxes, so I'm gonna take it. And the city attorney is like, no, like, don't touch the drop box. So Sunday after church, this man does a whole photo op, and he literally just puts on a helmet and a vest, and one day he just goes with a dolly and he walks out there and he's just like, and he sends the picture to the Common Council president and says, hey, I did this thing, the Dropbox is in the office, and it makes national news that he does it. And so my organization, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, along with All Voting is Local and SCIU and some other folks, I mean, one, we're pissed. Two, like, we were already doing a Dropbox campaign. Like, I organized a 5-city tour when the case was in the Supreme Court. We were then in Brookfield, like, you know, trying to address the fact that all these municipalities are shuttering them because you have bullies and election deniers intimidating folks over the drop boxes. Then this bozo comes out of nowhere and does it, and I'm like, we're going to Wausau. And I'm like, so we start to organize folks to literally create a citizen's complaint, and we meet with the U.S. Attorney here in the Western District in Madison. And after a week standoff, he returns the Dropbox. We applied a lot of pressure to this man. I mean, we organized the people. They were calling his office nonstop. They were calling for his resignation. He did a common council meeting where he did a whole filibuster in the beginning of the meeting like an idiot. Like, in all my years, I've had more executive experience than this man as far as being in the mayor's office. I've never seen anybody go up there, give a whole filibuster about drop boxes before a common council meeting. He was sweating. And then, you know, had the audacity to try and put his common council out there. Like, he's been trying to do all types of flaky and shaky moves, and he knows that, like, he thinks he's a martyr. He thinks that he did nothing wrong, but he knows he did something wrong. He knows that, like, when he did that he was going to be able to have a chilling effect on other people, and people were going to have confusion over where they could drop off their boxes. And it was a signal to certain people out there. And we can't have sitting officials challenge election administrators. We can't have people literally take boxes that are meant for our elections and go steal them. I never thought in a million years I'd use the phrase "stop the steal" to talk about a ballot drop box. Like, it is beyond me. And so he's under a criminal investigation now because of us. And I'm not here on some kind of crusade, but like, accountability must be had. People need to trust our election institutions, and we need to stop bullying our clerks. We need to stop bullying our poll workers. Because they are regular human beings. They do not get paid 6-figure salaries, hell, crazy salaries at all. Like, you're going to literally threaten the people that all they do is just care and love, they want to make sure that this thing is run properly, and they're given like nothing to do it. So we're out here just whipping and gliding. Guess what? I hope somebody from Dodge County is either watching this or is in the room, because guess what? We're coming to Dodge County next, because there's a sheriff who is doing a lot of fear mongering and doing a lot of bullying. And guess what? I got a lot of smoke for this man. So don't even trip. Like, I got a special. We got all types of fun and shenanigans for that guy. And I mean, it's good, clean family fun too. Well, I mean, beyond. Mhm. Well, I mean, the November one is the suffrage one. So the suffrage one is just changing the language, and then only, right. And so once they make that change, there's the world that I talked about a little bit earlier. There's the world where if it passes, the legislature has the opportunity to not only force us into showing voter ID law, but then passing a bill where we have to show our birth certificate when we go vote. And that's problematic because not everybody has an ID right now. So if you're gonna then force people to have to go get a birth certificate too, birth certificates aren't free. I mean, I was buying people's birth certificates while I was at Boat Riders, and it was $50 a pop, $75 a pop. The cheapest one I ever bought was like $20, but I honestly, I did not buy many $20 birth certificates. Mm-mm. No. And beyond that, real quick, and I'll come to you. Like, I know that the attacks have been heavily on non-U.S. citizens, and believe me, non-U.S. citizens aren't the ones, like, they're not going and voting in mass. Like, if they go and vote, they're getting arrested. They're not watching that and being like, oh, I want to go into a polling location and go vote so I can then go be deported. Like, you know how ludicrous that is? Like, honestly. So my thing is like, think about our senior citizens who might have lost their documents. Think about the low-income people that don't have those documents. Think about literally the wife that has a maiden name on a birth certificate that does not match the records that are in the state. Okay, like, you know what? These bozos are not thinking about all the people this is going to impact. Oh, well, they actually are. I take that back. I take that back. Yes, they are. um, I saw your hand up. Oh, hell yeah. Natural disasters, North Carolina, God forbid. Your social security card too is that your social security card is is one of the documents you need to go get a birth certificate. Okay, you know how flimsy that thing is? Guess what? You lose it 10 times, you are SOL. And I know people that have lost it 10 times. Don't lose your social security card 10 times. Um, and so I'm looking at the clock. I just got a couple things and then we'll just open up for questions. Um, Here's the thing, guys. Like, and you have to forgive my little squirrely brain at times because I know at the start of this I talked about money in politics, then jumped right into the amendment and all that good stuff. The beautiful thing is that with the maps, like, we have opened up the opportunity for actual competitive races across the state. But we have to inspire people to not just be fixated on just voting for the president, just voting for the Senate, just voting for the sexy races that you see on TV. People need to be educated about the state legislative races. We have to take advantage of the state maps that we have been given on February 19th, 2024. I'll never forget that date for a couple of reasons. One, I met my significant other that day. Also, we signed the maps deal that day. So, it'll be a magical day forever where I will tap dance on the moon. But If we do nothing from now until 2030, we will be in the same gerrymandered rabbit hole that we have been subjected to for years. So my hope is that we do our part to educate people about these fair maps and we make them vote. We get them, no, we don't make people vote. We get people inspired and engage them and galvanize them so that they want to go vote. And my biggest thing is that if you've seen the record money spending, and my organization tracks it, we have a searchable database, it is sickening. Every day, if I were to write an article about it, it would be out of date by the end of the day, okay? Like we've broken records. Like independent expenditures, the parties, the candidates, hell, the 8th Senate District right now between, I believe, Dewey Strobel and, Jody Sinkin-Habish, they are on pace to do something that I did not think I would ever see in a state Senate race where the salary is only $57,000 annually. They are in a battle where they are on pace to go maybe $5 million. All right? They're already at combined. So like they each have spent, they've raised almost $2 million apiece. All right? They are going at it right now. And that money, like I said, you lighting it on fire, it's not going to go to healthcare, it's not going to go, lead pipe abatement, it's not going to go to jobs or anything, it's going to political ads, it's going to persuasion, all types of stuff. Think about what we can do with campaign finance reform. If we actually take advantage of these maps, I promise you, I will go into the legislature, not only will I lobby and make sure that we get plain language on these amendments and on these bills, get a bill passed that will force these lawmakers to explain what the hell we're signing up for when they put amendments on the ballot and bills, but also to fight for real campaign finance reform. We have a Supreme Court election every year till 2030. We are going to be subjected to nonstop spending, and I'm sorry, nonstop ads for a long time. But we can definitely have their ears in a way we haven't in a long time if we force their hands. And I'm going to tell you, we cannot rest on our laurels when it comes to actually being in our lawmakers' ears when it comes to a true fix to redistricting. And it is it's a nonpartisan, independent redistricting process, and we are so close. And after November, I'm going to be coming back here and educating you guys about what the plan is, because I have it. And we're going to be doing a statewide tour. I'm going to be bringing the band of the Rebel Alliance with me. And we are going to literally be doing town halls. And we are going to bring big wigs around the state to do some big stuff with you guys. And we're going to then, once we bring all the grassroots people and bring the presentation, we're taking it to Madison. And we are going to make the legislature bring a bill. And they're going to pass something so that we can do our own amendment to bring this and do a nonpartisan redistricting process to take the lawmakers out of it so that we stop having them gerrymander us into oblivion. One more thing, boss, and then I'm going to close it out and then I'm going to let you guys do questions for the rest of it. So this is the last thing, because I want you guys to be hopeful, because I'm a happy warrior. You guys are the key, and I mean that so sincerely. You have a lot of cornball people come up and they'd be like, you guys can do it, the world's in your hands, all this stuff, but I mean it sincerely. Like, I don't know how many days are left, because all my days are blurring together now. Jesus. Who's keeping count? Oh, God. I just, got a chill through my spine when you said it. Sincerely. I think about moments like this where I get to share this time, I get to share this space with you. I know I'm never gonna get it back again. And it's why I try and look you all in the eyes and I try and treasure it and try and just hold time for a second, because you guys mean so much to me. The fact that we get to have this, the fact that you are so engaged and that you care. You've cared whether it's right now or perhaps your whole lives. And I don't know your Batman origin stories, but there was something that made you want to be civically engaged and made you want to make sure that your generation and the generations to come does not get a raw deal. And it's the reason why, I get up here and I try and fight like hell. And it's the reason why I don't let people stick me in the eye and tell me that we can't do stuff. So I want you to know how inspirational people like you are to me, because I don't get to be executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign without people like you making me believe that I can go do it. I don't want to stay in a place like Wisconsin if I don't feel welcome or feel like there is a world that I want to live in and want to be a part of, and a community that makes me feel like we can go do anything and believe and dream about anything. So I just want you to know that whether you see it, whether you feel it, I want you to know that I feel it, that I see it, that I take your stories, I take the things, the pain, the hurt, and I carry it with me, whether it's in Madison or across the state, and I try and do my best to let people know that we are not going to take any raw deal that they give us at the end of the day. So I just hope that you know that, like, at the end of the day, it's serious stuff, and it's our lives. And while I am executive director, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you know that when it comes to our lives and this democracy, that it is sacred, and that we are going to continue to push, and we have to keep pushing. And I don't care if I have no voice, that it's our lives, and we have to keep fighting for it until there is nothing left. And so we have 9 days left. You vote like your life depends on it, because it does. It does this time. I can't say if it does in the next 4 years, but I can tell you right now it does. So I can't thank you guys enough. I appreciate you guys for being an inspiration to me. And I can't wait for the next time that I get to be back here, because every time it means something so special to me. And so with that, I will open up to questions. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Yeah. That's a really good question. And, there's a lot of mis and disinformation that is flying left and right. And, I only have so many resources at the end of the day, but what I do try, like, if there's certain things that clearly fall in my wheelhouse, like, for instance, like, when it comes to the maps, when it comes to the money in politics, when it comes to um, certain key things within our democracy, or if there's certain things that are, like, really catching fire within Wisconsin, then I will definitely, and, like, if you see certain things and you send it my way, like, I'm the kind of guy that I will put money and resources behind it, and I will either run text campaigns, digital campaigns, I'll do all types of things that I think are creative that will try and educate the public so that people will get in front of it. Like, and here's one example. Like, there was people that were getting a text message, and it was saying it was like citing some criminal statute, and was saying like, hey, you violated this for voting or something like that. And, I sent it up the flagpole within, the Voting Rights Coalition, because I'm a steering committee member. And then the League of Women Voters went ahead and then filed a federal lawsuit, and now they're going after it, right? So, I was the one that was the little birdie that sent that up the flagpole. They've got a national chapter, and they have a staffer that is focused predominantly on mis and disinformation here in the state. Delaney, she is a delight. But there's times where I will run campaigns, and so I do a little bit of mis and disinformation, but it's not my sole wheelhouse per se. But sometimes I do. Yeah. The league is heavy. The league is heavy in it. The League of Women Voters, they do it big time, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, look, a couple things. One, there were a lot more resources in the August one than there were in this one. Also, it's a very fine needle to thread. When you talk to people about this amendment, a lot of people look at it and they're just like, well, US citizens, I mean, they're supposed to be the only people voting, so why wouldn't I vote yes? And we spent so much time trying to refine the language to get the stuff that we are going to do for it right. And it took so much time. And the work, like, I mean, it has been one of the most difficult things to try and be able to then, even in the camps where the people that you would think would be the most sympathetic to the issue, to try and be persuasive to them. And I remember the first meeting, the first webinar that we had very early in the process, just to even try and test it. And oh my God, people were like, some of the things that I heard get said, and they were very like anti-immigration type rhetoric type things. And we were just like, oh God, we got to go back to the drawing board here. Like, we're not ready for this. I was about to curse. We're not ready for the crap storm that's getting ready to come with this. And so this has been a really hard one to thread the needle on versus like, you know, the one in August and some of these other ones. August one, it's easy. They're going, I mean, even though it was hard to like interpret what they were saying, they're going after the governor and his right to appropriate federal funds. This is wrong. The U.S. citizen one is like, yeah. Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's, I tell you, I mean, it's such a beautiful concept when you write it down or when you say it in a room like this, but when you say it in some of these really power hungry rooms full of people, oh man, I mean, they're like, wow, you live in a world of bubble gum and rainbows, and man, they don't want to hear none of that. Like, and and to take it even a step further, like, I don't care what party you're a part of, like the folks, they just look at the rules and the systems and they just don't like. In 2015, we changed the campaign finance laws here in this state. So, a couple things. You can max out before 2015. You could max out 10 grand to the Supreme Court and to the governor for those seats. They changed it so you could go 20,000 for each of those seats. You could do unlimited contributions to the political parties and the committees. You could do unlimited transfers between the political parties and the political parties and the candidates. So it's almost like it is legal money laundering, basically. And it's created the system that like now it's become uncontrollable. And we are going to continue this until we put our arms around it. And so my hope is that folks understand that we have agency. We can bring public campaign finance reform back. We had it in this state. It got gutted. We could bring it back and we can actually take our money and put it into places and de-incentivize these folks from being able to have all this money flood our races. And like out-of-state money is drowning in Wisconsin. Like it is drowning people here in Wisconsin. Like people, you don't understand the whales that are right now literally trying to put their thumb on the scale here in Wisconsin to see the outcome be whatever they want it to be. I'm just talking. I mean, I don't care. Mhm. It's true. And I mean, we do, if you go to wisdc.org, like, we talk about ads and ad spending a ton. And then we even trace it to who is spending the money and what they're doing behind the scenes and like who they're connected to. And I think there's more, I mean, I think you have some really great ideas of how we can really be able to connect dots. And we also take it a step further and talk about AI and some of the other things that have been flooding the airwaves. There's no question that there is a lot of education that needs to be done, especially in Wisconsin, because we are not done. We're not done with being subjected to it, like I said. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm being given the gong. It's the Gong Show. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a treat.